G'day friends and fans, and welcome to Dave Talk Stuff, Ukraine War Update for the 26th of August 2025. I'm your host, the author David Applegate, author of the books The Boyhood of Cade, Pearl Games, Into the Ozbound, and The Erotic Tales from the Empire. Part 1 available now, more to come soon-ish, months away. Anyhow, thanks to all those who support the channel, particularly those couple who bought my book recently. Yay! I could finally afford that cup of coffee I've always lost it after. Yeah, don't worry, folks. I won't spend it all at one store. Woo! Coffee! However, thank you to my patrons. I really appreciate you, those who stuck by me for thick and thin. And if you'd like to join the Patreon, buy my books or buy my merch, all my links are in the link tree. QR code on the screen. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go over to the news. And officials from many countries are working on a deal to end the Russian-Ukraine war. Now, whether you believe it or not, I am of the opinion that Zelensky is in the way with his unrealistic demands and constant demands that Russia bend over and kiss his little hiney. Jeez, and I thought Putin was short. Boy, isn't that man got Napoleon syndrome written all over him. Of course, we'll fight to the last Ukrainian, because Zelensky's not Ukrainian. He don't care about Ukraine. And of course, sending women to the front. Yeah, that's, you're running out of men. You're killing off Ukraine. But of course, all the usual propaganda. We shot down drones. You shot down drones. But you only attack civilians. We hit every military target. Every accusation by the left is a confession. You know that, right? Germany. We're going to provide security guarantees, even though you can't even meet your welfare obligations. Why? Because of all those people of unspecified origin who you let into your country, even though their countries aren't at war, you know. Now, apparently, why Vladimir Putin appears reluctant to sit down for talks with Zelensky. Donald Trump says he doesn't like him. He, being Zelensky, doesn't like Putin. Won't talk to Putin. He keeps saying, Putin has to meet with me. And then says, but then Zelensky turns around and says, but first Putin has to do this, and Putin has to do that, and Europe has to give me the security guarantees. I want the paper in the hand from the Americans. Give me the security guarantees, said Zelensky. Putin spoke with many people, trying to bring together people from around the world to put pressure on Zelensky and tell twerp that, Ukraine needs to raise billions of dollars every month. No less than $1 billion. But he doesn't use it on his country, he just wants more war. For a guy who wants peace, he's certainly playing the con. Starlink is the one who... Apparently, Starlink has been paid for by Poland, I thought. And, of course... situation in Poland is, of course, growing disdain for Ukraine and their abuse of Poland, notwithstanding Ukraine's dumping substandard wheat, not even green wheat, okay, on the Polish market for under cost. Weird. All right, so here we have the front. We have new artillery and action across the front, particularly in Serbia, with lots of drone strikes, lots of explosions, and of course Zelensky claiming it's only military targets. Only civilian targets. Well, they only hit military targets. Now, this map hasn't changed in the north that much. Now, here and there, there's spurts of sporadic fighting. But North Kupiansk is a little bit of change to the map. Of course, yesterday they had a huge breakthrough for a little while, and then they stopped. Probably because they achieved their goals. Here they've achieved a lot of. They've achieved a lot. Ukraine has lost more land in north of Lyman, fighting east of Lyman with no change to the map, fighting in Chevish Yar and north of Chevish Yar. Yesterday the Russians had a quick land grab, but they've stopped short of Mainsk. They've controlled most of Chevish Yar and Novovinsky and surrounding areas, but they've stopped short of Moravinska, and the fields between them remain no man's land. Russia's in Stubenski, but haven't advanced. Same with Stildoin and other areas. That's all part of bringing up artillery onto Komovinskaya. No man's land between. Russia's seized most of the... As I said, they'll eventually wear down and seize all of this town west of Torsk. They've also seized some of the area, and as you can see, they've taken way more territory here. They were here, and now they're here. They've taken more territory, lots more territory, up to fighting outside of Bryansk, or to bring more artillery onto Klominska. I thought they would bulge out here, but they seem to... This was stopped by a Ukrainian offensive here. This is 2 days ago. Russia's since fighting back against that. Now, there's been some land grab north, but not much. There's been a little bit of land grab here in the east, not much. Only half of Rodinsky and Krasnodar Lyman, which you'll see this name pop up a lot of times on the map. I don't know why. Can't seem to find out. There's a lot of towns in Ukraine with the same name, or it's a deliberate... It's deliberate, but every so often it appears just as the name they put on a map. But Russia's taken north, and for some reason, though there's fighting in Novovinsky, they're marking it as, because of this Ukrainian offensive, that they've liberated the Novovinsky. No, there's fighting in the south, here at Moravinka, which is mostly under Russian control. But yeah, southern Novovinsky was taken back from the Russians, but they're still fighting there. All right, the Russians are still crossing the fields into Novovinsky in a counteroffensive. The Russians were in Pavlovsk. They're still fighting south on the basically outskirts of Pavlovsk. Pavlovsk is this side of the highway, north of the highway. They're fighting south of the highway. They're fighting here. They've taken a town. But it's been under Russia so like this. It's been sitting there so long. But the same with Moryang. There was fighting in the south yesterday, not much today. There's been a land grab here, not much. Like I said, the bloodiest end, wars end bloody. As they come towards an end, there's a land grab. It'll be like World War I, where they come out and say, "Oh, we're stopping now," and it took 6 months to get to an agreement date. diplomats still haven't learned their lesson, but Russia's taken another town. This remains back in Ukrainian hands. This remains partially in Ukrainian hands, although there's fighting on the road up to here. The Ukrainian offensive here obviously wiped out. The Russians are back fighting over that town. Most of it, little bit of land grab towards Oloviska, but not much. Fighting on the road to Zaporozhye, not much. Kursk Bridge, no successful attack. No successful attack on Zizhpopol, Sirivpol, or Nervenkia today. No successful attack on Mariupol. Remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 targets that Ukraine fires drones at daily. Most of the time, they don't make it. 99% of Ukrainians' attacks are pissing in the wind. They might as well wear a wetsuit. Yeah. Supporting Zelensky's like pissing in a wetsuit. Feels good, but you achieve nothing. All right, Merkel 2.0 has apparently found lots of money to give to Kiev, despite the fact that the welfare state is behind. Okay, Germany's out of money. They are cash broke, literally out of cash. They have no money to pay for their welfare obligations. Yet the Christian Democratic Union, basically, 50 billion. There goes your healthcare, Germany. There goes your retirees. Expect grandma not to last the winter because they're going to be giving her sugar pills, bro. All right. Ukraine is in danger of losing the arms race in which Russia has, as pointed out by Sky News and others, that Ukraine's production is way behind Russia. London, Economic Times, and even The Guardian has admitted that the Russian armed forces are using more drones controlled by fibre optics. And they got not just to the race early on Ukraine, but not only have they taken the lead, the problem is, and most people won't say this, but Russia's air defences, they've just got way more air defense and way better air defense. Now, America has rushed 7 new anti-drone systems to Ukraine. And they are protecting Kiev. That's about it. You need hundreds. Like Russia has literally 384 Tor systems just in and around Moscow. America is way behind on air defenses. As Russia points out, Russia builds a drone for $3,000. Ukraine builds a drone for $30,000, and it's the same drone. The Russian components are cheaper. They get them to the front line faster. Ukraine drones go through multiple layers of different countries, and assembled in Ukraine, just so that they have something to do, because most of the Ukrainian economy is shut down. Ukraine has drained its grain bins of seed stock, known as green wheat. Man, when you're selling your seed stock, you're fucked. Because next year, what are you going to plant? Zelensky is allegedly claiming his readiness to meet with the Russian president, yet at the same time, he wants political and financial pressure on Putin to basically force Putin to agree to everything that Zelensky wants. They're calling Zelensky as a fraudster. that he's manipulating and blackmailing European society. He understands that he's playing to their hatred of Slavic people. You know, they're good old Cold War warriors. But most of the British population don't care about the Ukraine war anymore. You tell them what they're worried about. It's the bacon. It's the ban on bacon. It's the closure of churches on Sunday because it offends the mosquitoes. But even certain social groups in Ukraine no longer consider Ukraine a sovereign state. And the Ukrainian proposition has said to Zelensky, you make peace, we take you out. Everybody is just like Zelensky and other negotiators are basically saying, no, we don't want to meet with the Russians. So how are you going to negotiate peace if you won't even meet with them? You keep saying you want peace, but then you say you won't meet with them until they meet your demands. And then Zelensky claims Europe and US are now united because of me. I saved Europe. You know. In a single day, I gathered and united the world leaders around me. Trump's a world leader. The rest, little vassals from petty states that once had a little bit of relevance in the grand empire, who still think they have grand relevance. And look at little Zelensky. Nah, does that look like a winner? Everybody's telling him to shut up and listen. Remember Zelensky accused Trump of being ungrateful and gambling with World War III by refusing peace with Russia. And now they're screaming that he's a Putin puppet because he won't sanction Russia. He has more sanction on Russia than any president. The sticking point is that Zelensky doesn't want to remain neutral, that he won't demilitarize, and he won't recognise the territories that voted to join Russia between 2014 and 2022. He wants to have his cake. Yes, the middle finger to you too, Mr. Zelensky, you pathetic little man. History books one day is going to dedicate no less than a paragraph or two to Zelensky. He's going to be a footnote on the grandest presidency America's had in 100 years. This happens every... You have grand presidents. Ukraine has had nothing but shame after shame after shame after shame. They have scandals that we can't mention because YouTube will ban you for mentioning them. That's how corrupt the world is. That's why it's so important. You know, that's why I hate this saccharine slop that the media serve you, the sterile, puerile Puritans who clutch their pearls saying, don't treat women like sex objects. Well, they have their cowboy calendars and their fireman calendars. And they send Russian and Ukrainian youth to war so that they can crow how mighty they are. There is nothing worse than the coward who starts war and then blames the victim. For a decade, Russia stood and watched as Ukraine slaughtered its own. If America could go into Iraq, Russia could go into Ukraine. It's as simple and as plain as that. And you have to recognize the fact that Ukraine ain't your bro, ain't your friend, ain't Captain Skyshield, ain't your defender. They're that hippie who comes round daily to put his hand in your pocket and tell you what a good person you are for making sacrifices. And then tells you that they're making sacrifices, but Zelensky ain't sacrificing his children. He's sacrificing other people's children so that he can stay in office. 400 soldiers in one battle. Armoured cars. Ukraine's down to armoured cars. They mount up, race into combat, and are taken out by short-range artillery. Ukrainian offensives end up costing lives. Because whenever they gather for offensive, that means Russia opens up with their missiles. Russia, 122mm, $100,000 a pop. Expensive artillery. Until you look at how much a 155mm, $155,000 every time they fire off a barrage. These missiles are equal to a barrage of artillery. Cost less. See, because it's the cost of it's not just the cost of manufacture; it's the cost of delivery. You're flying in artillery every day into Ukraine. That's costing that shoots the cost of every shell up by thousands. If you cared about Ukraine, you would learn the facts about Ukraine, come to your own conclusions absolutely about Ukraine. So far, nobody's come at me with anything other than insults. Most of you are well-behaved, decent people who have been patient. Occasionally, some of you've given me likes. Most people, if you've seen, right? But really, anybody's got an argument for what a pro-Ukrainian argument. Not one person's made a cognitive argument. And a lot of people out there know I do not like Putin. But my dislike for somebody doesn't mean we should wage war to remove them from office because it would make Lindsey Graham or Keir Starmer or Macron or Merkel 2.0 feel good about themselves. Or the Finnish Prime Minister can run around saying, we beat you, we finally beat you. Because Finland were humiliated by the Russians. Yes, they held back against the Russians for 6 months. But then they were humiliated and they surrendered. And then the Russians said, we didn't want to occupy you. Now go away and stay out of World War II. And they did. And Russia hasn't attacked them since. So how is it that people could somehow say, even Bill Clinton came out yesterday and says, when asked about Putin, he says, Putin's always kept his word. You get him to a firm commitment and he will keep his word. Even Bill Clinton admits that he believes Putin wants peace, that there are obstacles, many obstacles, that he has to overcome. He didn't name them. But when Bill Clinton tells you, people still don't seem to believe it. I blame in part Clinton for this mess, for giving Ukraine promises and then doing nothing when Ukraine was attacking its own people, when Ukraine was selling its own people into and trafficking people and being the centre of drug money laundering and all these other crimes. When the Soviet Union fell apart, Ukraine became one of the most corrupt places in the world. The Clintons did nothing, but subsequent presidents until Trump have done nothing. Europe has done nothing. A lot of people say after the collapse of the Soviet Union, it seems a moral inversion that the gutless and the political just got worse. That they learned nothing from the collapse of the Soviet Union. Instead, they doubled down thinking, nah, that just wasn't real communism. Do your own research on the British Labour Party, the Fabian Society, the Social Democrats, the Christian Democrats, and many of the French Socialists, and you'll all wonder, how the heck do they keep winning elections when they're the least popular and the most incompetent buffoons? And that America has bailed out Europe time and time again. And Americans are getting sick of it. Europe dragging its heels. Europe spending money on India and Sudan and Israel and Pakistan. And Americans are sick of the same thing. That if you got money for foreign aid, you got too much. You're taxing the people too much. And Ukraine's just another long example of liberal democracies turning into absolute failures. The concept of democracy is good until the people start voting for their selfish interest, and then it ends up collapsing under the weight of its own incompetence. And you have, again, time and time again, you even look at Gandhi, a peaceful autocracy. You look at the stability in Russia and many other places around the world. A peaceful autocracy is preferable to a liberal democracy because the corruption is rife in every liberal democracy. Look at Trump. Puts the police on the has a crackdown in DC. Crime suddenly disappears, and the people cry. Liberals want their crime, they want their drugs, they want their hedonism, and they want you to pay for it. Just like Ukraine. They want their war, but they want you to pay for it. And then they'll claim the victory, they'll claim to be Captain Sky Shield, and then claim that you have to pay them for the rest of your life so that they will protect you from the evil Russians. You know, it's like the elephant rock scam. Here, buy this elephant. Here, buy this elephant rock. What's it do? It keeps elephants away. I don't believe you, says, and P.T. Barnum says, look around, do you see any elephants? The word everybody doesn't understand is sophistry. There is many problems in the world, but I'm telling you right now, okay, China's on the verge of war. India's on the verge of civil war and war with Pakistan again. And if it wasn't for Trump, they would probably be at war. Same with India and China. If it wasn't for Trump, there'd be war. If it wasn't for Trump, China would be invading Taiwan. You know, the list of things going on in the world today. So many people are ungrateful towards President Trump because it's not their side having success. You know, it's like Germany and France and Britain. They don't want peace in Ukraine because they want their victory. Because otherwise it means that their ideas are bad, that their ideas are failures, because they marry themselves to ideas and not outcomes. So they're married to the concept of liberal democracy, not to the outcomes that are peaceful, that any government has to be autocratic in order to be a government. Liberal democracies are failures because they don't use the weight of the law to maintain peace. They use the weight of the law to maintain power. That is the difference. Thank you for watching, and please like, share and subscribe. You can support me on Patreon, of which I have 2, or you can buy my books or buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree, in the description below, or in my profile. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now. Yeah, scan the QR code on the screen. I think I said that right. Right. Bye.